call to order the meeting on Monday, March 11th, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee of Corte Madera. And join me in the salute of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you call a roll or?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Okay. Chair Ravazio.
Here.
Vice Chair McPherson.
Here.
Committee Member Garza.
Here.
Committee Member Longinati.
Here.
Committee Member Knopfsteiger. Here.
Okay. We will then go to item number 2, open time for the public regarding non-agenda items. There are no members of the public present at the meeting. Are there any members on Zoom who wish to comment on items that are not on the agenda?
Yes, we have 2 hands up, and just as a reminder, if the public wants to speak during the public comment period, just put your hand up, and when I call on you, just unmute. So Odin Palin.
Yes, go ahead and speak, and if you can, please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Odin Palin, and I'm a student who bikes to Redwood High School and my work daily through Corte Madera. I'm talking on this public comment, I'm talking about the section of road of Lucky Drive between Doherty Drive and Pfeiffer Avenue, which is directly east of Redwood's backlot. It's the only way for students from Green Bay or Larkspur Landing to access the school by bike, which several hundred students do every day. Currently on this section of Lucky Drive, bikes have to weave in and out of traffic because there are only sharrows, even though it's very heavily used. And the intersection at Lucky Drive and Pfeiffer Avenue is also dangerous, which forces bikes to cross the lane and go to a yield sign. Class 4 protected bike lanes or a 2-way protected bike lane on the north side would tremendously improve the safety. And there are currently very few parking spaces on the road that are not used very heavily, as most buildings on the street have off-site parking. And in recent years, the city of Larkspur has also been making great improvements on Doherty Drive, such as a 2-way curb-protected bike lane that would be bike path that would be able to connect to this. So I'd strongly advise creating better bike infrastructure, as including a protected bike lane as the best solution for this section of road.
Okay, thank you for your comment. And we are not allowed to address or comment on items that are brought up in public comment because they're not on the agenda. So just wanted to clarify that. And we will then move on to our next person.
Okay, Matthew Hartzell. You can unmute.
Thank you, Chris. This is Matt Hartzell, Director of Planning at WTB TAM, and my comments are actually a continuation of the same comments I made at the last BPAC meeting when I came in person with a big poster. Those are about the southern segment of the North-South Greenway Gap Closure Project. And specifically, we are recommending that this project be phased into 2 phases, a near-term and a medium-term. The near term, or phase 1, is the portion of the southern segment that is entirely within the Corte Madera town limits and the town right-of-way that the town already owns, also known as the Corte Madera Curve or the Detour Y, from the intersection of Warnham Drive and Old Redwood Highway along the old Northwestern Pacific right-of-way as far as the town limit at Industrial Way. Phase 2, or the later phase, it would be the portion that's north of that, north of Industrial Way. Phase 1 is the lower hanging fruit of the 2 phases, which is why we recommend that the town of Corte Madera work in partnership with TAM, who is currently the lead agency on this project, to advance the Corte Madera segment of the southern segment, that is phase 1, to advance it to shovel-ready status sooner rather than later. And there's an excellent opportunity for funding that's going to be available later this year. The Safe Pathways to the Bay Trail and Safe Pathways to Transit program The MTC has $150 million available for the 9-county Bay Area, and this segment is one of the Bay Trail gaps that's eligible for this funding. Phase 1 is the lowest hanging fruit of the southern segment. It is entirely within the public right-of-way. It involves no easements on private property. And it would solve the current problem of the dangerous passage on Old Redwood Highway through the Lucky Drive Freeway interchange and the Trader Joe's parking lot driveway. It would provide a safe, all ages and abilities bicycle route on the North-South Greenway from the current existing pathway at Warrenham Drive up to Industrial Way, after which on-street connections could be made temporarily until Phase 2 is completed along Industrial Way and Rich Street, connecting to Phase 2 of the northern segment, which the city of Larkspur is currently building right now and will be finished soon. So we've already presented this idea to TAM at their last board meeting and last month at the Corte Madera Strategic Planning Workshop. We really recommend that Corte Madera move forward with this and communicate with your partners at TAM to let them know that you want to move forward with this. And we recommend that you formalize this as an agenda item at the next BPAC meeting so that the BPAC members can formally discuss and give recommendations to the town council and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, anyone else?
We have no other hands up, but there is one email.
Okay,
Um,
we can read the email.
yeah,
Okay,
I'll read it. So it's from Bob Middlestead, I believe, and label Super 73s. So we asked that you put Super 73 issue on a future agenda. At the start of our campaign, most Maronites thought that Super 73s were Class 2 e-bikes as they are labeled. This meant that they could be ridden legally by children of any age. Many in our community were upset with the way some children were riding them, but didn't think anything could be done. After looking into this, we concluded that Super 73s did not comply with the Class C requirements in Vehicle Code 312.5A2. Their motors are capable of working above 20 miles per hour, the legal limit, by simple use of the app provided by Super 73. When shifted into the fastest mode, the motor works up to 30 to 35 miles per hour. The vehicles go from 0 to 35 in 14 seconds with the mere twist of the throttle, no pedaling required. Super 73s are the most popular throttle device at our middle schools. It's no coincidence that 10 to 15-year-olds have a disproportionately high accident rate. Fortunately, as a result of our efforts, many local officials now understand that Super 73s are not just dangerous, but illegal. They're not e-bikes, they are a type of motor vehicle and subject to license, registration, insurance, and safety equipment requirements, which they do not meet. Thus, they are illegal not just for our children under 16, but for anyone to ride on streets. We have found that the most effective way to enforce the law against Super 73s is for schools to prohibit students from riding them to and from school and parking them at school. Several local schools will begin enforcing these rules soon. Sports Basement, the largest retailer of Super 73s in Marin, has agreed to discontinue carrying them. Best Buy is seriously considering that step. We are working with Proof Lab to do the same. Last Mile Marin in San Rafael is proving more reluctant or recalcitrant. MCBC agrees with us and does not allow them at its e-bike safety training. To quote its website, MCBC is unable to accept any device with the capability of operating out of class. These devices are not considered an e-bike and fall into the category of a motor vehicle. Any product that is capable of reaching speeds greater than 20 miles per hour on motor assistance alone will not be accepted in class. The Super 73s are incredibly common in Marin, and unfortunately, most of their models fall into this out-of-class category that we can no longer accept in our classes. We encourage the CMB PAC to add this item to its agenda for a future meeting and to explore how it can contribute to this important safety mission.
that was 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other public comment?
No.
Great. Thank you so much.
Can I just ask, Chris, will that be on the BPEC website so that we can refer to that?
Yeah, we can post that comment.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
Anybody get the correct spelling or pronunciation of the first student from Redwood's comments? I
first name was Odom,
Odom.
Odem, I assume.
Odin, and then last name, Palin, Palen.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We will close public comment and we'll move on to item 3, approval of the minutes. First off, are there any changes or revisions to the minutes from November 13th, 2023? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 13th?
I'd move to approve the minutes from November 13th, 2023.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. That's approved. Committee member reports. Are there any committee members who have a report they'd like to give?
I have a somewhat of a report, I suppose. Just as a citizen, I have been lobbying Public Works and some members of the town council to take a harder look at reducing the speed on Tamalpais Drive. And the reason I thought that that was timely is because there were 2 assembly bills recently passed that make it easier for towns like Corte Madera to reduce speeds by 5 miles per hour without going through the more cumbersome 80-20 rule. And RJ has looked into it with the assistance of David Parisi and his staff, and they have concluded that it is possible, but it takes a town council ordinance. So that's my report, but it'll dovetail into a future agenda item for us to consider. I don't know if we need to have the BPAC consider that, or if it should go perhaps directly to town council.
Okay. Any other reports? Hearing none. I would suggest taking it to town council, if we can talk about it, right? Just if they're the only ones who can do anything, so.
Absolutely. That was my mind
It's
too.
gonna take 2 more months for us to
Yep.
meet, so
I'm
this needs to happen, so
I'm happy to hear that.
I would, anybody else, I'm kind of going off agenda here, but anyone else have any? This is a timely issue, so, okay, great, thank you. No other committee member reports, discussion items. So, Chris, I guess we turn the whole meeting over to you now, right?
Sounds good. Okay, so discussion item 5A, new painted choker islands at Prince Royal Drive and Spindrift Passage. So in response to losing a crossing guard at that intersection of Prince Royal and Spindrift, the town decided to move forward with some safety improvements to just enhance safety of the crosswalks, where a lot of kids, cross for school. So we installed some painted choker islands on every corner. And the benefits of that are to decrease the crosswalk length, increase visibility of pedestrians, to slow down turning movements for vehicles, and then just an overall increase of safety while going through the intersection. And this was, I forgot to mention, this was brought up from, I think, the previous meeting. There was a comment about potentially installing choker islands at uncontrolled crosswalks. So we just wanted to present this as an example of one we've already done. So here's just a plan view of the choker islands that we installed. So on every corner, basically we pushed the road out, narrowed the lanes, and added delineators around the corners.
Does that mean bollards, Chris?
No, so delineators are different in that they can be run over. It's not gonna like stop a car. So here, I have some more pictures on the next page. But yeah, they're mainly just like the white,
Okay,
yeah, delineators you see that have reflectors on it just to be able to see them by cars, but not exactly stop them. So here's a picture of the finished product. You can see the painted area has kind of pushed the lanes out. The crosswalk is now quite a bit shorter than it used to be. You know, if someone's crossing, they're really only in the street in the middle section. And then the other improvement we made is basically extending the red curves on each side. So as a vehicle approaches, they have better sight lines of people who are trying to cross. And one other. And yeah, here's just another angle of one of the corners. And so basically these function the same way as a bulb out does, but the main benefit is it's just a lot cheaper to design and implement. No concrete work. And then it's just also, yeah, just a lot faster. So that's kind of the bonus of these type of construction. So yeah, I mean, even on this corner, that storm drain would be a lot of work to move if you were gonna install a bulb out and make it out of concrete. So so yeah, that was that project. Are there any questions about that?
Could you go back to the first slide, please?
This one?
Yes, the top left-hand corner photograph, is that on Corte Madera Avenue turning into Magnolia in front of the school?
Oh, no, this is the same intersection. This is, sorry. You know, it may be on Magnolia, yeah.
Magnolia.
So that's a good example of exactly what you did at Spindrift and Prince Royal, which is fantastic, but at a simple kind of uncontrolled intersection. So I just wanted to compliment that as well as the lower one. And this is pure curiosity. I know the VPAC isn't really involved in cost analysis, but does the town do this work, or does an independent contractor do this work?
We hired a contractor for
Okay.
this.
And do they always require Parisi or a similar firm to do a complete kind of survey and layout so that they do it right? Is that right?
Yeah, in this instance, we hired Parisi to design it. I think, yeah, in most cases, we would probably want a transportation engineer to basically stamp it.
And with respect to more simple, uncontrolled crosswalks, is it fair to say that after either the town or a contractor has done one or more, do you need an actual transportation engineer to lay it out, or can it be kind of duplicated with experience?
I mean, I think it would just depend on the situation. If there were two that were almost identical, then potentially we could just design it ourselves, but it would have to just look at the situation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But this is a fraction of the cost of what it would cost if you were to do bulb outs and, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Dig out storm drains, and repave the street and everything else. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And this, I think we were able to get done in a month or two versus that sort of project would.
Couple of years.
Yeah.
good, you're
Great.
here.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
That's really an important access
That's great.
for the Cove School, so
Yeah.
that's great.
Great
Yeah.
job. Do more of them.
Okay.
I think you have someone on the telephone.
Let's see. Oops. Are we taking public comment? on this, or-
Yeah, we can take public comment.
Okay. Looks like Warren Wells wants to speak. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Warren from the Marin County Bike Coalition. I just wanted to echo the chair's comments. This is really fantastic work. The kind of stuff we'd love to see rolled out more frequently. As you said, it's you're getting 80 or 90% of the benefits of hardscape with a percent, 5% of the cost. So really great work. Love to see this as an example to show to other cities around the county. So thanks for your work on this.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chris. Great
And
job.
one last comment, RJ mentioned that it was 20,000, including design to implement this.
Oh.
Yeah, so,
And took months, not years.
Wow.
yeah,
Didn't have to go to the town council and get put into the town budget and later, and, oh,
yeah.
unbelievable.
Did it in 1 month, Chris?
I think 2 max. I don't know the exact timeline, but it was
Wow.
pretty fast to implement because I believe we found out that the crossing guard was being removed and then we were trying to implement it before school started, so.
Great job, RJ. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to add to that. And thanks for giving the initial info, Chris. Yeah, it was sometimes these crossing guards happen very quick, and obviously we want to mitigate before the next school season. So it was one of those conditions where we found out, I want to say spring, and within a month or two, we were able to get that in. And thanks to Parisi for helping us out with the design. And I think only the other comment I would add is as much as on the kind of cookie cutter comment or putting it elsewhere, a lot of times, a lot of it is the kind of risk analysis and liability. So with all improvements, especially ones that are, close to a roadway, we're going to want an engineer to sign off, whether that's civil or transportation, because it provides the town with design immunity should an incident occur and we get an accident.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, RJ. Okay, I guess we can move on to item B, Assembly Bill 413, no parking within 20 feet of crosswalk.
Okay. So, yes, this is regarding the new assembly bill. No parking within 20 feet of a marked or unmarked crosswalk. So this, the text is basically pulled straight from the bill, but it basically prohibits stopping, standing, or parking a vehicle within 20 feet of the vehicle approach side of any unmarked or marked crosswalk, or 15 feet of any crosswalk where a curb extension is present, which is basically a fold out. And then the bottom portion basically just says that until 2025, municipalities can only provide warnings for infractions, but then after that, they can begin issuing citations. So I think this is kind of caused a stir in bigger cities because of, there's a crosswalk at every intersection, so it removes a lot of parking, but I think it's a little bit less impactful for us. And then just some important notes for our town. The law does not specifically require red curb adjacent to all the marked or unmarked crosswalks. Enforcement is allowed without no parking signs or red curb, similar to fire hydrants or crosswalks.
Wow.
So, kind of everyone knows you can't park in front of a hydrant and you can't park in a crosswalk. It's going to become one of those situations where you just have to know that you need to be 20 feet back from a marked or unmarked crosswalk, just anywhere pedestrians can cross the road. Yeah, we don't necessarily have to mark those, and any intersection that already has painted red curb will be updated to comply with the bill over time, because a lot of intersections, we have some length of red curb, but maybe not 20 feet. So it would be a massive undertaking to try and do it all at once. So, as we update roads, we will bring it up to code with that requirement. And then, as I mentioned before, citations, are not permitted for enforcement until 2025. So this year would just be warnings. And that's basically all of it for that new law, but any questions?
Any questions from VPAC?
Is this being considered in the legislature now, or it's already signed by the government?
I believe it's passed, it's signed, yeah. Mhm.
So there's gonna be some education out there for people,
Yeah.
the hard way. Any other questions?
So this has kind of been one of my pet projects for several years. Because as I notice the close calls that I have, and when I see children using uncontrolled using uncontrolled crosswalks. Whenever there's vehicles parked close to the crosswalk, the children are obviously invisible. So I'm really pleased to see that this assembly bill passed, because I was sort of pushing for effectively what this does. What I'd like to do is to have this perhaps come back on the next VPAC agenda to determine if it's appropriate for the town to create a policy that to educate and enforce this, that in fact the town would paint 20 feet back red curbs, and potentially at crosswalks that are particularly dangerous for children, would consider the use of delineators that we saw on the prior presentation. In other words, not just red curb, but delineators or bollards that would prevent anybody from parking next to the red curb. And perhaps as part of that decision, if that was going to be a town policy, the BPAC could assist in kind of coming up with an inventory of uncontrolled crosswalks that would be priority over ones that could wait a few years as the town improves roadways. I just think it's a great safety feature for pedestrians, and to the extent that it's not overly burdensome on the public works, for the town to take the leading oar on educating and painting those curbs red.
I'll field that one. So yeah, this came out, I think, early the year, really after we've established our 2020-24 work plan, which we'll be showing to you later. It's extremely packed, even more packed than some of the years past. So we'll defer some of this discussion till then. The other thing I'll say is, really our kind of bandwidth and our emphasis is kind of what Chris mentioned, to get rid of areas that we believe are inconsistent or perhaps misleading to the public. So for instance, you have a crossing and maybe we have 10 feet of red curb and then nothing. Well, a lot of people are going to see that, go, oh, I can park right up to the red curb at 10 feet when we know this new law says 20. So in those situations, we would expand it back. But where it's not conflicting, we're not necessarily going to prioritize those unless we know there's, consistent behavior, bad habits and whatnot. As far as, rolling out education also, I mean, unfortunately, those are low cost things, but high resources. So if that's really where BPAC wants to prioritize it, we have to kind of prioritize it amongst our other projects for future years. It's not something that we have where we have excess staff that can take that on right now in 2024.
RJ, I know you're very wise about considering questions of liability when it comes to any sort of street improvements. And I'm just thinking out loud that, is it possible that homeowner associations and other civic groups could provide the manpower to paint curbs red where your department has sort of pre-approved and maybe pre-marked, just some very have a work day in certain neighborhoods where those curbs are painted. Is that something that is possible, or does that create too much liability?
Well, I think if we want to do it, it's best to have, so we have less of a bandwidth issue when it comes to our crews that can paint red curb, or if we're, limited there, we can always hire a striping sub. Where we have more bandwidth is reviewing locations, marking them in the field, reviewing them by our engineering staff, marking them in the field, coordinating the work, all of those things. That relies on people like Chris and I and some of our other, higher level engineers. So, but if we had a concise list from BPAC, that certainly makes it a lot easier. And if we just need to implement, we review the list and we pass it on to our maintenance crew and they add it to the work plan. That's, again, less of a lift. But when we have to go out there and spend all the time out in the streets, creating plans, doing everything, doing the analysis, it does add up, and it just competes with other projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a beeping noise we're trying to solve. Oh, I heard an uh-oh.
We're not supposed to be in here.
See if he is.
Sorry, just give me 1 second. Hey, I think someone armed us alarm. It's like right now.
We're on hold for a minute if there's members of the public watching.
It's not that it's about to go off, so. Okay.
Option 1, 2, 3, 4.
But yeah, while we're waiting, I'll just add on that. So I mean, if someone from the BPAC wanted to take the lead and prepare something, we could review it and potentially move it forward sooner. But that's kind of what I was inferring there.
Yeah, understood. And it just strikes me that once there's sort of an inventory, perhaps prioritized, in terms of the crosswalks that would provide the greatest safety with the 20-foot red zones. I think it's possible for you to educate members of the public who are willing to measure back 20 feet, mark it. I mean, I've painted a lot of red curbs in my life. I was actually a parking lot and concrete parking, manufactured concrete bumpers for parking lots. So I've striped parking lots for 3 years of my life when I was young. And it's very easy, of course, to roll out a red curb as long as you're, know where the dimensions are. I'm just hopeful that maybe we can lighten the load on even the Public Works crew if members of the public are willing to assist.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at that. I think first step there, right, is getting a list we want to proceed with.
And
I'd talk to the lawyers first
yeah,
before I did anything else.
the
I was on town council for too long. Liability.
Yeah.
You're gonna have people painting in the street.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's
Okay.
RJ, you're
great idea, but
you're when you say first things first, are we on the same page that it would be sort of a inventory of crosswalks that we be subject to this assembly bill? And is that what we're talking about? And how can we be helpful in that regard?
They just turned off, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think really the focus
It's okay.
for us is to eliminate conflicting messaging through our red curbs. So,
Okay. Right.
a list that just has and again, this isn't crosswalks, this is unmarked. This is every crossing. So
Right.
providing a list of every crossing without additional detail doesn't necessarily help. it's providing a list either with, you know, a handful of priority ones that you want us to look at, or ones that you believe have conflicts.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Press-
you
press
resolved
is
the
the
alarm
first.
system?
Yeah.
Wow, great, multi-talented, okay,
We do have 2 public comments.
okay,
You okay? Let them go.
sure.
Warren Wells, you can unmute yourself.
Thanks. This is Warren Wells from the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. I really appreciate the chair's comments, and also obviously understand the DPW, like everyone in Marin is overworked and understaffed. So, understand the constraints there. I do think that there is, room for, a subcommittee of the VPAC to try to come up with, a list of high priority intersections. I would offer, my own staff time or staff time from our organization to help with that. This is something we've been talking to a few cities about, trying to come up with like an AB 413 transition plan, prioritizing those intersections where there is a safety, where there would be a clear safety. They're easy to find, on arterials, particularly multi-lane, or places where there is a high volume of pedestrian crossings. So it would be pretty easy to come up with, I think a list of 10 or 15 intersections where all those would be the case. I also just wanted to call out one other conflict that I'm sure the DPW is thinking about, but just so everyone is on the same page about, there may be metered spots. There's some cities in Marin where there's a metered spot that is now subject to AB 413, and like those should probably be looked at as well. So again, if this body decides that they want to start looking at that, I'm happy to offer our assistance with that, because this, we run the Safe Routes to School program. We want to make sure that these crosswalks are safe as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Warren. Next.
Okay, Matthew Hartzell, you can unmute yourself.
Thanks, Chris. Matt again. I want to echo everything that Warren just said. I do like the idea of a citizens committee or a BPAC subcommittee helping with this work, and I would also be willing to help with this inventory. I do want to point out just one semantic clarification, which I think is important. I heard some members of the BPAC mentioning that this law applies to uncontrolled and controlled sidewalks, but the actual text of the law is that it applies to marked and unmarked crosswalks. That's not unsignalized, that's unmarked. And in fact, the California Vehicle Code states that there is an unmarked crosswalk at every single intersection of 2 streets in the state of California. So this actually applies to every single intersection, which is quite large, obviously. And I would definitely recommend prioritizing arterial streets, collector streets first, and residential and local streets later. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak?
No.
Okay, bring back the BPAC for any comments. Yes, please.
I think just prioritizing intersections near the schools.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Then we can move on, Chris, to item C, 5C.
Okay. So this was also, I believe, discussed briefly in the last meeting, but basically the question came up on who's responsible for maintenance of sidewalks. So I pulled some sections of the municipal code, and I'll just summarize them for you. That's the full text, but basically 12.56 discusses sidewalk. And so the first section A basically just says homeowners are responsible for maintenance of sidewalks adjacent to their property. B, that sidewalk needs to be upkept in a safe condition. And then C is just homeowners are liable for negligence if someone gets injured on their portion of the sidewalk. So these 3 sections are just saying that basically the homeowners are responsible for maintenance.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Oh no, we got one more little
Oh,
piece.
one more little
Looks,
piece.
looks the same, but it's a different page.
Okay.
So this one, 12.4, 12.40 is, on landscaping and vegetation. So, section 1 is homeowners has to maintain landscaping adjacent to their property in a neat and orderly condition. And that includes trees, hedges, shrubs, walls, fences, basically anything, that gets put up to the right of way or into the right of way. And the second part is no vegetation or structure may encroach over the sidewalk, which is important because that's usually the issue. And so, our town code enforcement will send letters to homeowners, or they'll investigate when we receive complaints, and if an unsafe condition is found, then we'll send letters to repair. But it's only on a case-by-case basis. So that's basically how we've been keeping track of those issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, one more quote, sorry.
One more.
This is just,
Keep surprising me.
I just wanted to provide one example. So in this case, we received a complaint because of a site distance issue with the hedges and the fence being right up against the sidewalk. Hedges were kind of overgrown on the sidewalk, and it became an issue where people couldn't see going around the corner. There was a site distance issue. So our code enforcement sent a letter, we went back and forth with them, and then eventually the homeowner decided to just remove their vegetation and alter their fence to improve the site distance. So that's just an example of, one.
Is that the same corner in those two shots?
Yeah, that left is before, right is after.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
But the homeowner is responsible for the maintenance of that sidewalk though, as well as the sideline.
Correct,
That's what
yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, it was only an issue with their landscaping and fence, but, so that's what they.
But if the
changed.
sidewalk were cracked or uneven,
Yeah,
they're responsible for that.
and I did want to mention that, sidewalk being cracked isn't necessarily an issue that we would, go after, make someone repair. That's not necessarily like a problem, but it's usually if there's uplifting or offset joints or something that would be considered like an ADA barrier, or just unsafe for, the public to use. That's when we would, respond to a complaint.
Cheryl, did you have a question or?
No, I don't have any further question, but I know of several instances where I'll be talking to the code enforcement officer.
Any other questions?
Chris, related, I think it's related. And the town almost always just investigates and sends letters in response to complaints. You guys don't really go out and look for these conditions. Is that fair?
Typically, that's correct. Yeah, we just don't have staff time to go.
And trees and shrubs and bushes that grow into the roadway where sidewalks are not existing, but block cyclists or other vehicles and vehicles' ability to see around the curbs. That's within the town's purview pursuant to some other section, I assume.
I believe so. I mean, I think that would fall under the second section I mentioned, 12.40, that discusses landscaping in the right of way. And even if there's not a sidewalk there, it encroaches in the road or causes sightline safety issues, that would be when we would request that they maintain.
And then finally, what is the town's interpretation of what's the definition of a sidewalk?
I don't know off the top of my head, but generally it's a 4-foot pathway adjacent to the road. Usually falls under that category.
All right, thank you.
Question? I just have one other quick one. Doesn't the town have a program where we're sending someone into each neighborhood or a neighborhood each year with a grinder And we're grinding down unevenness in the sidewalks at no charge to any of the residents.
Yeah, actually, thank you for reminding me that, we have the sidewalk pilot program, so
That's what it is.
there's 4 different, basically, parts of it, or different methods, and one of them is what you mentioned, we pick a different neighborhood every year and send a company in to grind all the uplifted sidewalk. One of them is that each year when we do a paving project, we also replace a certain amount of sidewalk as part of that. And then, the other 2 are basically, one is homeowners can come individually to us and replace uplifted sidewalk. And the last one is we have a project every year where we find a contractor to do that work. So there's a lot where the town's helping a lot with replacing all the uplifted sidewalk or barriers.
And then don't we like pick a neighborhood each year, and the idea is after 10 years, we will cover the whole town?
Yeah, that's the plan.
I'll remember that. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further comments or, okay, then moving on to item 6, project updates, public bike parking improvement expansion project.
Yes. So, yeah, as mentioned, this is the public bike parking expansion projects. So the project will include 19 new bicycle racks, and it'll also include the improvement of 8 existing bike spaces in 6 different locations. So the town applied for a grant and was awarded $49,657 in TDA funds to implement the project. And then right now we're anticipating construction in spring of next year, 2025. And all the bike racks are going to be inverted U type, which is the preferred bike rack listed in our 2016 bike and ped plan. And there's a picture of it right there. So here is a map of the 6 locations. One of them is going to be at Mankey Park, 4 are in Town Park, and then 1 is in the north parking lot across from the village. So I have individual slides for each of them so we can go through. So going from west to east, this is Mankey Park, and I basically conceptually drew these in, but they're not to scale or anything, so I just keep that in mind. So here we're basically going to install a new concrete pad and 4 bike racks. This is on the east side of the parking lot, kind of right at the end of the parking stalls. So it'll go in between the walking path and the parking lot. So this is in Town Park, in the west parking lot, right next to the playground. We're gonna remove some existing bike racks that I don't even know if they're bolted down, they're just kind of sitting there, and replace it with a concrete pad and 3 of the inverted U bike racks. This one's also in the west parking lot. It's a little harder to see because I didn't have a good angle, but we're planning to put a new rack right next to the tennis courts. And that one will have 4 new bike racks. So this is on the other side of the park in the east parking lot, right near the community center. This one will have another 4 bike racks. And then this area is on the other side, right next to the plaza. And that's obviously there's 5 bike racks already there, but over time the soil around it has kind of settled, and so there's a 2 or 3 inch drop around the concrete pad and around the curb. So to improve this site, we're going to install decomposed granite and use a binder. So basically it'll level everything out and be flush with the plaza and the curb, just to make it easier to access and safer. And we'll install some tree wells to protect those trees that are in that area. And this is the last spot. It's the north parking lot across from like Nordstrom's in the village. Same deal, just install a new concrete pad and 4 bike racks there. And that's the whole project. So any questions on that?
Okay, questions from BPAC members on this? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's not a question, maybe go with comment.
Questions, questions right now.
Question only is, who came up with those locations?
I believe, RJ, you want to answer that one? I wasn't part of the beginning of the project.
So some came about as requests we've had. For instance, the Nordstrom's lot, we've been requested to bring a temporary bike rack out there to support some of the events. And so, you know, we're trying to be conscious of, you know, our maintenance time that we commit to for open-ended amounts of time. And so versus having to unroll that every single year for the event, we could just put one in that lives there permanently. Some of these were deficient, you know, I think the term was wheel benders. So the ones over by the playground, they're there, but they're the type that bend your wheels and aren't bolted down. So it was more of a chance to upgrade an existing facility. The Minky Park, you know, given what we're seeing with the, you know, hundreds of people attending the summer concerts. And I know there's one set of racks there, possibly 2, but it seems like it's, you know, under, it could use another set of racks to support bikes there. And then, you know, I think we did during the grant application, also did check in with perhaps MCBC. Warren, you can probably validate that. And but yeah, that's kind of how we develop these. And, you know, I think there's room for a little bit of refinement, but I don't think we can change it too much given the grant. But yeah, if one is just a bad idea, let us know. If one needs to move over, you know, 40, 50 feet, then let's talk about it. But yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from BPAC? Question?
Comment.
We're gonna come to comments. We're doing questions now. We'll go to public comment if there's any public comment.
I've got one. Go ahead, Warren, and then unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a round of applause to staff on this. This is a great project. I wish more cities were doing this. We have a real dearth of bike parking in Marin, a ton more people riding bikes, especially, you know, e-bikes, cargo e-bikes, trying to get the kids around, and supporting people. Sorry, my daughter's in the background. So yeah, supporting people doing that securely and safely is great. And RJ did check in with us, just kind of vet those locations. It looks good to me. I didn't have any big suggestions for that from my end. Again, we support replacing those wheel bender racks, and also the locations of the new racks seem sensible. Thanks so much, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
One more. David Bell, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, hello, BPAC, thanks. Curious about when that bike rack at the Nordstroms will be in place, because yes, we're planning a large area for bike parking at the car show in September.
Well, I can answer that. I think we're looking at spring of next year, so it probably will not be in before for that event.
That's fine, thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? And we'll bring it back to BPAC for comment. I think Cheryl had something.
Yeah. Cindy Winter, you know, passed on, I think, over a year ago, and she gave me a bequest of $5,000, and I just held that. And I would really like to see that contributed to the town to even add more racks and have a plaque for her, which I would provide for. And I looked a little bit at rack designs because I thought she deserves more than an inverted, you know, staple rack. And I looked at these kind of decorative sort of things. You can pass that down and just see. And back in September, I got a quote for 4 racks, including shipping, but not installation, and that was a little over $2,600. So if the town were willing to install additional racks, and I think it'd be wonderful. I think it would be nice to have a tribute to Cindy and have those installed. In terms of design, I haven't gone to the beautification committee to ask them what they might like in terms of something different than a U-lock or U-rack, but I would do that, and hopefully, and it sounds like there's plenty of time to do that before installation in the spring of next year, a year from now. So anyway, that's and I'm just, we miss, I miss Cindy. I think we all do. She added a lot. So I think it would be nice. And I think in terms of location, I think the Minky Park location would be the nicest, because that's really a center of civic activity. So could be at the town park too, but I think Minky Park is nice. There's already plaques there to honor Jack Hale and other folks. So.
Okay, thank you.
So I've got 2 comments. I don't know if David Bell is still on the line, but, and Warren, but I know that the Marin County Bicycle Coalition has worked with civic groups, the Marin County Fair, to provide sort of a corral for bicycles and people to monitor, particularly in events where you're going to expect to get 50 bicycles or more. So that's certainly something that if Marin County Bicycle Coalition still has A, their racks, B, the plastic fencing that they put around, and then C, the people to support a bicycle valet, they call it. We should continue to encourage big events to look to Marin County Bicycle Coalition. My problem with the locations that I saw, particularly at Menke Park, is this. The first racks that were installed at Menke Park were installed about 12 years ago. And the director of public works at the time didn't kind of get feedback from the BPAC, and he and the crew just placed them between 4.5 foot high hedges. No one parks there, particularly the people who commute by bus, which included my wife for the better part of 10 years, who could easily have done that, because if you put bike racks that are hidden from the public by bushes, they're just a sitting duck for thieves, and people are not comfortable putting even their beater bikes or a nicer bike on a U-rack that's hidden from the public. So at Menke Park, if you're going to install more racks, they really need to be probably closer to the bus stop, with an eye towards really maintaining the hedging and vegetation so that it's really clear. You've got, 500 cars every hour driving past that bus stop. And if all of those cars, which include a lot of cyclists driving, have an eye on that bike rack, people are going to be more comfortable parking there, and bike thieves are not going to be comfortable, spending the 45 seconds to 2 minutes with bolt cutters trying to steal someone's bike. So I can't stress enough how much visibility to the public, and not just a parking lot. So for example, a bike thief or thieves, plural, with some sort of van that are, cruising around hitting bike racks, they'll park in front of a bike rack, using the parking lot, and they'll block the public's view and they'll take off with every bike that's parked there. So, I'll be happy to work with RJ or anybody from the maintenance crew to kind of fine tune some of these locations, but the visibility to the public who might be vigilant in watching for somebody screwing around with a bike, with the intent to steal it, is key to A, getting someone to actually believe that their bike will be there when they commute home from San Francisco, or even an event. I mean, you know, and honestly, the 3 existing racks at Menke Park, which are hidden from view from the gazebo, a good bike thief could steal a bike, an expensive bike from that bike rack, while there's 200 people 15 feet away because it's hidden in the bushes. And I guess another point that I would make as comment is that if the people who do that maintenance, landscape maintenance, I know they're not town employees, but if they're educated to cut back that vegetation to give as much visibility to those bike racks, that would at least be a step in the right direction. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
And I think it's great to see more bike racks out there. So great program.
Okay,
I have a question.
Yeah.
What are the plans for the bike racks at the new city hall, town hall?
RJ may know this better.
Yeah, we have, I believe 4 bike racks, on the front plaza. And we're still, we had some in the back, but due to the bioretention calculations, that facility had to grow. So we're still, we'll be looking for some in the back. But, yeah, I know, talking to the memorial, comments, I mean, I definitely think, so Parks is taking the lead on establishing a memorial bench process that probably will also discuss other types of memorials. But I think, you know, if the BPAC feels strongly and wants to do some sort of special memorial letter of support, I mean, that's something that we could definitely consider in the meantime for something such as Cindy Winters. But in all scenarios, you know, the goal here is just to keep a fair process and a defensible process. You know, perhaps some person who's not as you know, well liked in town, you know, wants to put something right smack dab in town park, and so we just got to make sure we're fair to everyone the same way.
okay. RJ, I have one that this might be for you. There's new bathrooms going into town park, I believe.
Yeah.
And has there been any discussion about bike racks there?
I think one of them.
Yeah, so Chris's image actually is right where the restroom is, so we'll be sliding that one way or another. And then the other thing I was going to say is what's not shown here is we'll probably also have some other DG or something that also will reduce the bush growth right next to it, just really for circulation and accessibility. So I think there was the one at Minky that looked like an island, but we want to make sure there's access from the pathway that's in the back, just to provide a facility that's also ADA. So, you know, and if there's benefits to, you know, also removing some of that shrubs, if that's considered overall a good thing. We're always careful about, you know, removing stuff because you hear it from both sides. You know, there's definitely people who want no removal of vegetation, and then every now and then we hear something like this, we're hearing please take down more. So or we can just find a spot that's more suitable and doesn't have you know, these mature bushes and can make everyone happy. So
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
RJ, I understand your concerns about fairness and process and so on. So what would be the next step to take to realize something for Cindy?
I mean, I would really look to you know, the chair and vice chair to request further discussion on this, if that's the direction that BPAC wants to go. But we're just trying to memorialize and or kind of justify, any sort of memorial until we can get to this more formal process, which will have a lot of these kind of spelled out. It'll have a process that's, has steps to it. But until we get that, we just want to make sure we're prudent about how we go about it.
Does any sort of memorial bench, in future, looking towards the future, have to be something that the town council or town manager has to approve?
So this idea of a memorial bench or memorial process will be vetted by council in the near future. I don't know exactly if it'll be this calendar year, but I know they're working on it. It's just one of those things that's unfortunately not the #1 priority for Parks and Rec or other departments. But certainly that's a goal, to have a defined process that, just spells out, all the criteria that's needed and so some of the costs and whatever else.
Then I would like to just suggest we agendize that for our next meeting to talk.
Okay, we can talk about it later. Okay, thank you. Next item, town council work plan and construction schedule. This is a big one.
Yeah. So basically council's work plan and our DBW construction schedule. So I'll start with the construction schedule and then RJ will go into the work plan. So I think we talked last year about our schedule this year and a few things have changed a bit. And these are just BPAC related projects. I didn't list all of them. We've got quite a few this year. But the first project on our list is the Central Marin Regional Pathways Gap Closure Project. That is the one that we're building, rebuilding the bike path on Warnham and installing a new one on Nellen and across Viper. So that one is currently being advertised, and we're expecting construction to start in June once the schools are out. So that's in the works. The cost of one to complete streets project, we're finalizing design and that's expected to start in July as of now. And then the Echo Connector path, that one's planning for September due to like environmental restrictions. So those are kind of the 3 pedestrian or bicycle large projects we have this year. And then starting in 2025, we have the Hard Street Connector path, the public bike rack expansion project that we just talked about, Paradise Drive Complete Street project, and then the Madera Garden Complete Street project is currently planned, but it has a prerequisite. We have to get the storm and sewer done, which is planned for later this year. So that one's still kind of questionable, but right now we're planning on it next year. Okay, RJ, you want to take the work plan?
Yeah, the intent here isn't to go through everything. Happy to answer questions on any of these, but really just show that, we've chosen to take a big plate because, we've got a motivated team here and, we enjoy bringing projects forward. But yeah, there's all sorts of things from, updates to our code, we're doing a rate study right now for the sanitary district, storm drain master plan, any of these Senate bill things, we obviously want to make sure we're compliant. So we take a look at all those. Some other initiatives, Chris, you can turn the page. There's several things going on with the parks we're looking at, a couple of different things at Minky Park, some things in the vicinity of the skate park, some pickleball courts over there, potentially in that area as well, that we bring into council soon. Yeah, Chris mentioned this summer, we have the Echo to San Clemente multi-use path, and we just got the agreement from California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So that was really the last of the large hurdles. So other than that, it's just waiting till September after the nesting season for the Ridgeway Rail when we can build that. And then otherwise, yeah, our, ongoing commitments, the sidewalk pilot program. We're putting in those audible pedestrian signals at several locations. That's actually being led by the county, but our team is kind of working with them through those. A larger public engagement effort worth noting on Christmas Tree Hill. This is really to look at the bottom portion of that neighborhood and really look at evacuation improvements, complete streets, electrical undergrounding, and also upgrades to our sewer infrastructure. So that one will probably start with some workshops, potentially late spring is kind of where we have it right now, but that'll continue on for the public engagement process will continue for likely year and a half or more, just kind of working through that one. And we just interviewed a couple firms for an ADA self-evaluation, really to look at not just our facilities and our parks, but actually like our programs and web pages. And so just kind of be on the up and up when it comes to accessibility. So all projects that we think are beneficial and excited about them, but certainly a lot that we're carrying, doing it with our smile on our face. But I just wanted to share that with everyone and answer any questions and listen to any feedback.
Thank you, RJ.
Yep.
And this is the abridged list. I
Yeah.
took out everything that wasn't related to public works, so it's even longer.
Okay, so we'll start with questions from BPAC for RJ or Chris about some of the stuff they're doing. Quite a bit.
Did this work plan come out of the Saturday meeting that was held in the last couple of months, or was this kind of generated beforehand?
I think RJ may
This
know
is
more about that.
really years and years worth of comments and feedbacks. I mean, for instance, Casa Buena Complete Streets. I think you all are aware that was initiated in 2015. We had to push it off for a few years because PG&E was going to do a big transmission gas project, and then they recently said, "Oh, we're pushing our schedule." And we said, "Okay, well, we can't wait anymore." The Central Marin Regional Gap Closure Project, again, that also has been around for similar amount of time, and we had originally ATP design funding, and then for a couple years we reapplied for construction, didn't get the funding, and luckily on this third attempt got it. So now we're able to build it. So yeah, like I said, we definitely didn't generate this list on a Saturday afternoon. These all have kind of been worked through the community, the BPAC, council, others for years and years and years. So
Right here. Any other questions from BPAC or?
Yeah, question.
Yeah.
On the sidewalk pilot program, you mentioned like homeowners' responsibilities to the sidewalks, adjacent sidewalks. Does the same follow for commercial properties and commercial building ownership? Let's say like this building, and the sidewalk, the public sidewalks that are around and how they interface with this property?
Yeah, that's correct. So the commercial or, other properties, they still have to maintain the sidewalk in front. So it would be the same process if there was an issue.
And the city's looking, or the town's looking at those opportunities as well, or?
Well, I mean, like I said, a lot of it is complaint based, usually when we respond and to request someone maintain, but we also, for the sidewalk pilot program, when we send letters out, we also send to businesses, anyone in the area that we're planning to make improvements. So we include them as well, and they're eligible for the grants.
and it helps with people who actually have violations for better success of follow through. So on one hand, you're being cited because you have an unsafe sidewalk condition. on the positive note, you can get up to $1,000 in grant funds if you know, not to exceed 50% if you tap into our grant program.
Thank you. Any other questions from BPAC? Okay, then we'll turn to public comment. Any member of the public wish to comment on this?
Oops. We got two hands up.
Okay,
Matt Hartzell.
Thanks. Yeah, I have a question about the Casa Buena Complete Streets project. It's something I submitted to staff some time ago, and I was wondering if staff had any follow-up. I asked if it was possible to put in a stop sign on southbound Casa Buena Drive just before the freeway on-ramp onto southbound 101, because Casa Buena Drive is the current route of the North-South Greenway, at least until the Alto Tunnel is reopened, which is several years away probably. And it's quite a dangerous condition when bicyclists are coming down the hill from Horse Hill from Mill Valley, and there's a big steep downhill, and cars going southbound on Casa Buena don't have a stop sign. They have a free left turn onto that freeway on-ramp. And I'm worried that a lot of those cars aren't going to see bicyclists going northbound down the hill. So a stop sign would really, I think, improve the safety, especially on this bikeway of regional importance. So I'm wondering if staff has any follow-up on that. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we'll address all the questions at the end.
Okay.
Okay, so next comment.
David Bell, you can unmute.
Hello, thanks. So regarding the Echo Pathway Connector, I'm totally thrilled that that's reached approval. But unbelievably, talking to some neighbors, they're not exactly thrilled. So I only suggest, RJ, when that design comes out, if it could be agendized, or the PPAC can take a review and let the public comment on that actual design. But as for me, I'm totally thrilled. It's a really short section, BPAC, 150 yards at most. It's currently just gravel. Really appreciate Public Works filling in puddles, especially over the winter season. It's basically safe for us to school. The kids used to come down Harbor and Echo and bypass that corner. Anyways, over on that, but while I have the mic under my 3 minutes, heard my name before, I'm happy to explain the MCBC parking valet program if Chair Rabasio wants further information on that. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead. You got time. You got a minute, 50 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. Been talking to MCBC a lot. I don't know if Warren's still there. The problem is they cost a lot. They charge like $900 a day to set up their corral, bring in volunteers, use their equipment. We tried to use them for the car show. It just wasn't cost effective for us. So that's why we set up our own bike corral at the car show and at the Oktoberfest.
Thank you very much.
Over.
Any further public comment?
No.
No. Okay. Can you address the questions that were asked?
Yeah.
RJ?
I'm happy to, if you don't mind, Chris, let me take Casa Buena.
Okay, sure.
We did hear, so the plans have been, aside from a couple things, and I'll touch on those in a second, they essentially have been in a state of 95% design since, I want to say actually around when the time I started here in 2018. It was really about funding and then also working around this PG&E project. The two aspects that were flagged by Matthew and then also another one by Warren was one is considering something for that intersection where we have the southbound on-ramp. So we actually are actively looking at that with Parisi or parametrics as a potential three-way stop. We're also looking at some other options that could be like a class 4 with a crosswalk. So we don't have a final determination. We're kind of going through the steps there, but we'll have that in time for the final plans. And then the other one is, I believe it was Warren that thought there was an opportunity to try to keep widening the road a little bit, kind of in the vicinity of the PG&E Tower, so that in that, even though you're heading northbound, there's a stretch there you're going uphill. So try to squeeze in at least a shoulder, if not a bike lane there. So those are a couple things that we've been, sharpen our pencil, really trying to squeeze it in. So, but otherwise, really the plans are not significantly changed since, like I said, I think 2018. So.
Thank you, RJ. No further public comments, so we'll come back to the BPAC for comments on this. Anybody wish to comment? Guess there's no public comment, no BPAC comment either. Great job, guys. That's really good, really ambitious, to say the least. I'll make that comment. Okay. Future agenda items. Is there anybody who would wish to
Yeah.
ask about
with the,
future agenda items?
To memorialize Cindy about with bike racks.
Okay. Well, that's future agenda items, okay? Yeah.
So, I think that continued suggestion by, Matthew Hartzell and Tam for the Corte Madera southern segment of the north-south Greenway. I'm not sure what we can do by agendizing it, but other than to say that that is a priority to the extent that it requires the BPAC to encourage the town council to apply for the funds that would allow that section to be improved and paved. So that if the town council needs our update on that, then I think that should be agendized for the next BPAC.
Okay.
The other is the town purchased some banners that are supposed to be erected once or twice a year near Mankey Park and other places throughout the town that essentially remind motor vehicles to give 3 feet to people on bicycles. And if those banners are in existence, I don't think they've ever gone up, and I don't know if they're scheduled. So if that needs to come back on an agenda, that would be great. So the BPAC can know that it's going to go up twice a year if that's going to be the case. Finally, we used to get regular presentations from the traffic division of the Central Marin Police Authority on the number of collisions between pedestrians and vehicles and the number of collisions involving cyclists. And that hasn't happened probably because of COVID, but maybe because we just haven't reminded Central Marin that that's something that we'd like their input. And because e-bikes is such a hot button topic for the community, it would be great if the Central Marin Police Authority chooses to make a presentation to the BPAC about pedestrian and cyclist safety, that they send somebody who can address what, if anything, Central Marin is doing with respect to e-bikes. And with that, that's it, my input.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? If that, then we are adjourned. Thank you all very much for your input. Thank you.
Thank you.